Hi, this is Dave and welcome to the Table, a series of videos where I review and discuss various board and card games, looking at them from a family perspective. And today we're going to be taking a look at a project that's currently on Kickstarter, and that is Brickwork from CMX Games. Now, this is the second game that CMX Games has put out. The first one was Copper Country, which came out last year, which I did a preview for. And this one is a totally different game. This is a two-player Euro-style dice drafting, dice placement game in which you are each competing and racing to acquire bricks from your brickyard and put them together and replicate these brick prints which you had created at the beginning of the game. The first person to be able to do that successfully is the winner. Let's take a look at the game, how it's played, and I'll come back and I'll give you my thoughts. Okay, here we have a prototype of the game Brickwork, and let me quickly go over what's going to be coming in the game. Again, this is a prototype, so it's not going to reflect the final product. There's going to be a number of these building bricks, and you can see here there's blue ones for one player, red ones for another player, and there's going to be yellow ones that are neutral, and they'll be used to establish what are called brick prints. There is a game board that comes in the game, and there are a number of different spaces on here where we will be able to place dice and in order to perform different actions. The game's going to come with 4 dice. There are a number of these little black markers that are going to keep track of these plus or minus tokens to modify die rolls. And then there are a number of cards that come in the game. We have one that right here, if we look at says Brickyard on one side, Collection on the other, and they're printed in 2 different ways so that you can have them however you want to have it set up. And there is a space here for like a reference chart for being able to modify your die rolls. It tells you which direction you can go. And then there's spaces up at the top that hold the plus or minus tokens. So, and then finally the other cards, there are some advanced rules that you can put into play that are going to give the game a little bit more to it. And I'll talk about that more in my review, but for this I'm going to show you the basic overview of the game. So those are the components. Let's talk about how the game is played. So at the beginning of the game, each player is going to randomly draw 6 of these yellow bricks, and they're going to fashion them together to create something, and they're going to describe them. So this player here, they decided to make a land speeder from Star Wars. That's what this is supposed to be. And the other player decided to make this, looks like supposed to be like a seaplane or something like that. Where one of the pieces fell off, sorry. So we'll put this back on. And so we'll describe this as a seaplane. So the object of the game now is the players are going to have to replicate both of these pieces in order to win. So over the course of the game, we'll be able to look at the construction and determine what blocks we're going to need to get to build them. So these are what we're going to have to build. Each player builds one and then describes it, but each player has to build both. So next thing we need to do is determine the player order, and so each player is going to take 2 dice and roll them, and we add up the values. So this one has a 9, this one has a 5. So the red player will be going first, so they're going to take one of their 2x2 blocks, each one, and they're going to create a turn tower. And so we just stack them on top of each other. Red will be on top, blue on the bottom, and we place it in the center. So now that we've done that, what's going to happen now on a turn is we're going to roll all 4 dice. And let's take a look at the values. We have a 3, a 4, a 6, and a 4. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see the board a little bit more, and we'll talk about the different actions. So now what we're going to do is we will be able to place these dice on these different spots in order to do things. So for example, now the red player gets to choose first. They're going to choose one of their dice and they're going to place them. So if I place this over here, I will be able to choose to collect 1 brick with 4 pips. So I have to look at over in my brickyard, and look, and here is a block that has 4 pips. here is one that has 4 pips. I have to make a decision which one that I'm going to want to take. Now, when I replicate the brick prints, I don't have to use the exact same bricks that when it was originally created. Like if we take a look at these, I don't have to use the exact same bricks, I just have to make the exact same shape. So that's going to be important. So what I'm going to do is choose to take this 4 pip die, and what I'll do is then I move it into my collection. So I move it from my brickyard into my collection. Then it would be the blue player's turn. They're going to do the same thing. Maybe they decide they want to collect one with 3 pips, so they'll take a 3 and put this over here. Put this 6 down here. Looking at this, looks like we need a 6 pip, so we could take either this one or this one. We'll put that over there in our collection. Now we have this 4 left, and we have a couple different options that we have to do here. We can choose to place it here and collect one of these tokens. We can, which will be able to modify our dice. We'll be able to use one of these to change the values of this. Or what I can do is I can bump this one out. So what I do is I can bump this out, and I can also collect now a brick with 4 pips. This player over here. So maybe they want to decide they want to take this one, and they re-roll this one. And now it becomes able to be used back for this player. So every time that you choose to bump, you're going to re-roll a die, and it's going to be able to continue the round. And so now we have this, we have a 6 here, and I can go ahead and bump this out and take this, put it into my collection, roll it again. And I have a 2. So now here's an interesting thing that we could talk about. With this 2, I can either choose to place this 2 up here to collect a brick with 2 pips, or I have a couple of other options that I can do. I can still collect a plus or minus token down here. I could choose to build, and when I do this, I build whatever the exact number of pips. So if I wanted to start connecting things, I said I can connect the exact number of pips. Well, if I try to start building here, this is only connecting 1, so it would not be that much. So I can't really do that quite at this point. Or demolishing would make me disconnect pieces if I put things together. So just for right now, we'll go ahead and place this 2 over here, and we'll grab this one. And so this is going to complete this particular round of different actions. And now what we do is we'll flip the turn tier over, and again, now the blue player would be first, and we roll the dice, and we're going to continue to do the same thing, placing the dice. Now let me talk about some of these specific actions that are over on the right-hand side of the board, because this is more important. So the first thing that we have is we have the build action. And so, for example, we're looking at, if we want to build something, let's say we had a 1. If I place this 1 here, it says I can connect exact number of pips. I could actually take pieces and connecting 1 pip, I could put this together, and now I've started construction on one of my projects. Okay, and that just depends upon the number of pips. And when I, like say for example here with 5, I can connect multiple pieces as long as the actual little thing sticking up, as long as this equals the number of those that I'm connecting is that number, we're good. If I just choose to demolish, what I'm doing is disconnecting pieces, and the reason that you can disconnect is because maybe you find a better way to build things, or there's another action down here with you place a 5 called recycle. Now when we recycle, what we're going to do is return 1 or 2 bricks and then collect 1 or 2 bricks with the same total number of pips. So maybe we had something over here where we had a couple of 3 pieces. We'll look over here. Couple number of 3 pip pieces. I can choose to return these 2 and maybe get a thicker one. Maybe I need to have this for something else. Or maybe I had this 2 and a 1 and I really needed a 3 to hold it all together. So I can do that to recycle. So that's that particular thing. Using these tokens down at the bottom, these plus or minus tokens, as we use them, we can modify the die values. I could change this by up or down by 1. If I'm at a 6, I can actually go down to a 1, or I can convert a 1 into a 6, because according to the chart it works in a circular pattern. So those are the different actions that you can do, and over the course of the game we're going to be trying to gather up different pieces and start fabricating them into our creation that we had originally created in the beginning of the game. And each turn we just rotate back and forth who the start player is, rolling dice, allocating them to take various actions. And the first person to replicate both of these in the exact shape is the winner, and that is brickwork. So you had a chance to see how brickwork is played, and let me talk about it. And the first thing that I want to do is summarize this game in a nutshell. To me, brickwork takes the spontaneous creativity of playing with building blocks and meshes it together with the structure of a Euro game to hold it all together to create this experience. So to me, that's brickwork in a nutshell. Now let me talk about various aspects of the game, to me, that makes the game stand out. And first of all, it's a 2-player game, so it's a head-to-head competition, which is good. There's a growing demand for 2-player only games. And so this is going to fit nicely into that category. It has very simple rules. The rule booklet itself was 4 pages, and half of that was terminology or explanation of words that were in the rules to describe certain things. And then we also have a rather quick playing time. So the game plays in 20 minutes to 30 minutes. So you have those things going for it. It's a 2-player experience for head-to-head competition. We have very, very simple rules, and we have a quick playing time. So those are some good things. Now, getting into the game itself, there's some cool mechanics that I like about this. You have your you're rolling your dice and then you're placing them on the board, typical dice placement fashion. But the placement of the dice, to me, it's a really cool of you're acquiring pieces by the number of pips that are on the dice. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, and that relates to the typical blocks that you see in your building block sets that we've played with as kids. So the interesting thing is, though, what do you do with the number 5? And I like it because you don't usually see a brick that is 5 pips. Maybe they do make a 5 straight, but you usually don't see that. And so the interesting thing is using this recycle ability to be able to trade in bricks, swapping them out to get something else. You're trading in pip for pip, so you can maybe take 2 pieces that are separate and putting them together to form one solid one, which is really good because sometimes you may need that in order to build what you're going after. And then I also like the fact of being able to construct and also to demolish. Sometimes you may have something together and you decide, oh, you know what, maybe it's more valuable for me to take it off and recycle it with something else. So those are some really, really unique mechanics in the game. What I really like is the bumping aspect, being able to bump the dice. And so even though you're rolling 4 dice, a round may take longer than just 4 turns, depending upon the numbers that are up there. Placing things and bumping the dice. Now, yes, you can take the same action as your opponent by bumping the die, but what you are doing then is extending the round, and you're offering the opportunity to your opponent to be able to have an additional action. And so there becomes a little bit of this pressing your luck, and is it worth it for you to take that extra action? So it's this risk versus reward. And so that underlying element drives the game, because yes, you're being able to get something, but now all of a sudden you're now giving you're giving your opportunity to your opponent to be able to use that re-roll die now to do something with. And so some interesting mechanics that drive the game. Now, in the basic game, I wanted to just see how the game was played, but there are also some advanced rules that come into play that you can add into the game, and they add some extra layers of complexity, in which I do like that, because once you have a handle on the game, you're going to want to have a little bit more to it. Then you're going to want to use those advanced rules, so I'm glad that they are adding them in as well, and so it's going to give the game a little bit more meat to it. Now this is a lighter style game, and so this is going to appeal more to families, I believe, because typically kids have played with building blocks. It's going to be something that they're familiar with that way. And then also some of the benefits here really is fostering that creativity and being able to think spatially and in 3 dimensions and trying to decide what pieces you're going to need to replicate the brick prints. And then you also have a little bit of risk versus reward and some pressure luck aspects that are in the game itself too. But overall, this is a very, very interesting, cool game. I like this one. I think it's a good concept and something that I have not seen before. So it's definitely a unique game that's coming into the marketplace. And so I find it to be entertaining, and it gives me a little bit of touch of my childhood because I used to play with Legos all the time. So anyway, so that's Brickwork from CMX Games. If this is something that you're interested in supporting, I'll have information in the video description below. You can go ahead and click on that and it will take you on over to their page. Also, if you are interested in keeping up to date with what I'm doing, you can feel free to hit the subscribe button, or in the video description below I have links to all of my different social media outlets. I do a lot of different things there, and then also there's a link to my Patreon page if you're interested in checking out that and supporting the To the Table project. So, all right, that's it for now, and join me again next time as we take a look at another game and we see how it makes it to the table. Bye-bye.